very good afternoon. Well, my name is Bruce McLean. I'm from Manage Engine ADAudit Plus. Well, I'm one of the technology consultants here at Manage Engine for Active Directory and IT security. Well, today we are going to have a webinar for an hour. We're going to have a lot of discussion. We're going to share a lot of information about ADAudit Plus. Well, most of us are very familiar with it, or some of us may be new to ADAudit Plus. And this webinar, this session is going to be a great benefit to understand exactly the key areas where we can leverage ADAudit in a best possible way for securing our Active Directory environment. So with that all said, so before we go for a deep dive into the webinar, so I would like to have a very quick check on the audio and video. So I hope everyone can see my screen and hear me fine. Well, if there's any problem or anyone has an issue with the audio bridge or the video bridge, okay, please let us know. We will, I'm sure, you're gonna get that sorted out real quick. So, let's take a few seconds, okay, so that yep, people can really raise a hand if there's really any problem in the audio and video. All right, perfect. So let's get started. Now, like I mentioned before, some of us may be very familiar with ADAudit Plus. Some of us may not be that familiar with ADAudit. And this session is purely has the objective, the core objective of this particular webinar is to understand, get as much as visibility as possible in ADAudit Plus, especially with the latest in the recent features we have added into it, right? Okay, and for any questions, I have my email address given right here in the screen, just the beginning of the slide deck. Please feel free to reach out to me in the technology. You know, I'm a hardcore tech guy, by the way, especially focus more in the line of security. Yeah, of course, I wouldn't leave the compliance behind too. Yeah, so please raise your questions and email me. We can have a lot of healthy and perfect discussion on the technology. So now this is going to be our, the core agenda. Just to give a brief introduction about ADAudit, it is a real-time Active Directory auditing solution. Is that the right terminology? Okay, it was. Well, before it was. And now, the auditing scope of ADAudit Plus is extended beyond Active Directory. Well, on-premise, it supports auditing your Azure AD. It supports auditing, monitoring, keeping an eye on what's going on within your file system. Yeah, not just for Windows file system. We even support NAS devices, CIFS file system, right? Well, we support quite a few vendors right now. And other than auditing multiple platforms, you know, gathering all the information, putting it into the proprietary database, and then reporting or helping us with a lot of pre-configured reports and alerts besides the routine stuff. There's another module called Analytics. Yep. Joined, well, not pretty recently, but it's been a while, but it's a great feature, user behavior analytics, which is going to help us a lot in terms of detecting, flagging the anomalies. You know, we know things are happening in our Active Directory and file system. Are they legitimate? You know, when someone doing some changes, are they really legitimate? Okay, is something fishy happening? Are they really fishy? Or if something's trying to sneak or something failed to do the job, do the routine. So that's exactly what the user behavior analytics is all about. But I'm pretty sure, well, I'm not going to bore down with the routine stuff, how it works, and then pretty much, well, we focus more on the recent features and the, you know, most wanted, I would say, underestimated features. Pretty much, you know, we're going to have a look at that right. To begin with, I'm sure we know ADAudit has a scope of auditing your Active Directory, your Windows servers, workstations, file system. In that, I've taken very few significant topics and feature set we would like to discuss right now. To begin with, okay, PowerShell auditing. Many of us know, yep, what's PowerShell and what we can do with it and what we can really achieve with it. we can do wonders, right? But at the same time, even the attackers, even the perpetrators would know this. They can do something or many things using PowerShell. And that's why nowadays we stand in a world with 95% with the data proven by semantics. So 95% of the PowerShell scripts that we found in the internet is going to be malicious. So anyone can do anything with PowerShell. So we are in a situation, which means we should be in the position to detect, even mitigate exactly what's going on through PowerShell in our environment. Okay, what we can do about it? So that's a $1 million question. Everyone can use PowerShell. They can launch, they can open the PowerShell, they launch the commandlet, they invoke a function, they invoke a script block. Well, they can run functions, they can run process, and obviously in the PowerShell, and they can do anything. Or we can do anything, right? Okay, so any or every environment would need to be in a position with a system to detect what PowerShell scripts are doing in our organization, who is invoking, what kind of commandlets is being invoked, and pretty much around the clock, we need to monitor the PowerShell activity. So what we can do about it? You know, we're gonna run back and forth with the slide deck, and also I want to show live environment. Okay, I have my server right here. I have my controller, so I'm running PowerShell monitoring in my DC, and we can do this. We just need to enable auditing for the PowerShell auditing, right? Okay, Microsoft has given away with audit policy setting that we can enable. That's going to be, I'm going to open up my GPMC so that I can work on the GPO that is linked to my DC, which is obviously the default of my controller's policy. That's going to be, okay, where to go? That'll be under preferences, Windows setting. I'm sorry, it should be under policies, administrative templates, my bad. So Windows components, PowerShell being one of the components of, come on, Windows PowerShell. There we are. I just extend it, turn on module logging, turn on PowerShell script block logging, and turn on script execution. These are the 3 important settings that we have to enable that would do the job very well. So where to see the data? Okay, I'm going to clear the filter now. That'll be under application and services. When we open the event viewer, which is the homeland to view all kind of event logs, right? The native logs, right? Okay, under Microsoft, you can either use this PowerShell explicitly for any pipeline execution, or Windows predominantly PowerShell. I go to operational or admin. Okay, no admin job, but operational. What's going on? You invoke a command, you stop it, you run a command. Everything is right here. But the problem is, how do we get this data to look in a more meaningful manner? That's a challenge, really a challenge. We have, thousands and thousands of events where we're going to have the logged in the PowerShell logging. So the matter, just like what we do in Active Directory auditing normally, getting the data decoded, parsed, normalized, and then make it in a meaningful manner, report or alert. So that's the challenge. Let's see how, it's been handled in ADAudit Plus Real. Okay, I'm going to show you ADAudit Plus. Under server audit report, that'll be for PowerShell auditing. Any new PowerShell processes involved, that's fine, but get the script block logging. Okay, this is where we're going to have the entire information of the script block. A script block, when I say script block, and that's obviously refers to a functional block of a PowerShell script. Obviously, PowerShell has a lot of commandlets that we can invoke. Different modules are there, right? So each module has several functions. In a programming standpoint, pretty much know what the function is. Well, each function is what we refer to script block inside the PowerShell. So we would know exactly what is the block of the script and who did it and what time in real time. And obviously, my domain controller, I have set it in real-time event collection. So And by the way, agent or agentless, it's not mandatory. So I deployed an agent in one of the domain controllers and collecting events in real time. So now getting back. So can we do a real simulation of live? Okay, I'm gonna go to my server again. I have several PowerShell scripts. I've had this for a while. I'm going to launch PowerShell, run as administrator, and yeah, let's go to that location where I have my PowerShell. Okay, which is in my desktop. Fine. I'm also going to, you know what? Domain password. I've executed a PowerShell script. My objective is to spray password or launch a simulated domain password spray attack. Or I'll do this. AD password spray. Come on. First import module. Find password spray. Okay, and now I'm going to launch it. Find password spray. Password. Okay, I'll go with spraying the password right here. Come on. And whatever commands that I'm running right here is going to be is right now getting recorded in the PowerShell logs, and which obviously ADAudit is grabbing that events. We're going to see this inside the PowerShell report. I'll show you the PowerShell audit reports right now. Go to PowerShell, script block logging. Oh, wow, that's great. Who did it? What's the script name? And if you go to the inside the script, you will see the entire function block. Everything, what the commandlets invoked, everything inside in real time. So we can even have an alerting configured so that, okay, so these are the users who would tend to execute PowerShells, and if they really execute some PowerShell scripts on remote servers, which are not supposed to be doing it, we can even have alert profile configured and get notified for anything that happened malicious through PowerShell. Okay, so that's about, oh, go to module login. Here we go. If any specific commandlet is invoked, what was that? Go to details. You're going to find all the verbals of the parameter invoked or what commandlet it was, really everything that can be run down, narrowed down here in the report, and who did it too. So these two reports are really helpful and beneficial in auditing the PowerShell activities, and that come handy in ADAudit Plus. All right, and now what next? If I go back to the slide deck, I think we pretty much saw it. The next feature set that we would like to focus on, Azure AD password protection. I'm sure anyone who has the Azure AD would know this feature. What is exactly Azure AD password protection? Well, I'm going to show my Azure tenant. I go to tenant and Azure Active Directory. I go to security, authentication methods. Come on. All right. Password protection. Okay, we all know the concept of domain password policy in on-prem Active Directory. So pretty much the password protection feature inside the Azure is running an extra mile ahead. Obviously, we can set up parameters, a baseline, and especially we can have certain passwords blacklisted from being used by the users in our organization. Okay, the question is, should it apply, or does it apply only to the Azure AD? What if, what if it's go beyond the Azure AD? Shouldn't it? Yep. It also has, if the Azure AD tenant has a synchronization with our on-prem Active Directory, Windows Server Active Directory, we can have this password protection, AD password protection feature enforced for our on-premise too. And What are we talking about it? Okay, here, think about it. We can have a bunch of passwords. In fact, we can even add the list of passwords that are not to be used in our organization. If people are using it, anyway, they're going to get blocked or from using the password. So we're going to audit that. Who is trying to set a password from the banned list? Whether they get blocked or whether making changes to the settings within the Azure AD password protection. So any changes, activities related to Azure AD password protection is what we're going to focus on, ADAudit. And we have the corresponding reports right here. If I go to reports and Azure AD password protection, password set success. Okay, unfortunately, I may not be able to show the data. Well, I haven't enforced to my on-premise Active Directory. There's no link between it, but this is where we're going to have the reports viewed, and the information we're going to find here is any password set failure. We have to keep an eye on that report. Anybody who tried to set a password, especially which contains the word or the phrase, which is in the banned list in the Azure AD password protection feature we have inside our Azure tenant, and any changes made to the settings within it. Wow, so we have the ability in ADAudit to report, to run down, to narrow down what kind of changes is really going on inside. Basically, this is, for example, if we have the Azure AD password protection, I've given the location right here for the native. Yeah, we can still find it in the event viewer. If we have the Azure AD password protection enabled, and enforced to our on-premise Active Directory, we're going to find the log, native log, and I've given, illustrated the event numbers as well. But the problem again, the limitations with the native side. Well, there's no point. There's no ability to run report out of it. It's pretty hard to decrypt, parse, and normalize the fields and make it in a more meaningful manner. And that's what ADAudit can achieve for us by leveraging the native logs in a beautiful way. Okay, so now what next? What features we can talk about? So now that's going to be, here we go. We all know this, zero-day attacks, zero logon attacks. That's basically logon. We had this in 2020, in mid of 2020s, right? Everyone knows about it. And even Microsoft released a patch for this. Well, we have to ensure that our servers, especially our DCs, are patched. Now, what exactly happens here with the Netlogon, and what kind of vulnerable we had or we still have in our environment, especially that can be exploited through Netlogon channel. We all know Netlogon is responsible for authentication, right? And obviously, but it is a process which drives the Kerberos protocol to authenticate. And what the attacker can do if or when the server's Netlogon channel is so vulnerable in our Windows devices, well, the attacker can gain access to any normal user and impersonate as an admin. In fact, impersonate as even a computer, a system account, with just sending out a bunch of zeros. That's why I call it a zero-day attack, zero logon attack, pretty much what we can call. So, okay, if I go to the next, we're going to need to enable auditing, just one audit setting that need to be tracked. It need to be enabled. That would allow us or allow ADAudit to track, monitor the events that can be made even more meaningful way when any perpetrator is trying to log in or authenticate or trying to impersonate through a vulnerable Netlogon channel. And which ADAudit has a report just right here. Go to server audit, Netlogon vulnerable channel. Especially we have to keep an eye on denied connect, two reports, denied connection from a machine account, because this has a lot more severity than getting a normal user impersonated and getting an admin impersonated, because system account holds highest privilege across any machine, right? What if the perpetrators has thrown some bunch of zeros through a vulnerable Netlogon channel and gained access to that system account. He owns that machine completely. And even any changes to the trust between a channel, I mean a machine and the corresponding service provider within the Active Directory, it's obviously the authentication. And the service is going to be authentication service, and the other entity is going to be the key distribution center, KDC, which is one of the domain controllers. So if any trust between a domain controller and a client machine is getting spoiled out of the vulnerable channel, we're going to have that information tracked and reported in ADAudit Plus. Now, the next feature is going to be advanced DNS reports. Well, we have DNS reports in ADAudit Plus. Any changes made to the DNS records that can be audited, and this DNS reports has been in existence in ADAudit Plus for a very long time. We have recently added advanced DNS reports. So what's the special in it? Okay, it has some special reports, especially. As I mentioned in the slide deck, we can track changes even at the minute area for any records in the DNS zones, nodes. Importantly, we can track a DNS scavenging. Okay, so just to know a little better about DNS scavenging, so we'll go to the Active Directory itself and go to the DNS. And we all know the DNS has a feature, right? We can set scavenging. Well, scavenging is aging, obviously. What's the validity of the records in DNS? And if the validity is over, DNS has the ability, which will obviously renew the record value. That's what's scavenging. We can set a period for based on the zones. Now I have set up a period of five days. If I go to any DNS zone, as you can see, some of the records are static. Some of them have the timestamp. So if any of these goes stale, delete this record when it becomes stale. So pretty much, what odd can happen inside the DNS scavenging? Well, the problem is when DNS scavenging occurs, or should I say this way, when DNS scavenging has been set and it doesn't occur properly, when someone blocks the way, that's where the period goes stale, the record goes stale, and obviously it doesn't get renew, and it disrupts each and every services that anybody is trying to locate the record. If it is a service or a host, just imagine the consequences. Nobody will be able to access a service inside the network, right? So that's why tracking DNS scavenging is very important, and we can do this in ADAudit in a single click. Not just the scavenging, any changes and any record changes, we're gonna get that tracked. So let's take a look in ADAudit. Okay, if we go to reports, we have advanced DNS server audit. We have one for scavenging activity. I don't think I have, yep, no problem. And zone changes or any activity in DNS zones, any records changed, we're gonna find that even with the value. Even you change a configuration setting within a DNS, you set up a scavenging period, or you change it, or you delete a node, you make any changes to the permissions or configurations of any parameter within the DNS is changed. Even the server's status can also be tracked. And we have, okay, fresh interval. It has been set to 120. Any detailed information that we probably have, we probably need out of the DNS when in terms of activity, what we're gonna get through advanced DNS server audit report. Okay, and now next feature is we talk about Sysmon auditing. Okay, well, Microsoft acquired Sysmon pretty much a long time ago, right? Well, to people know Sysmon, obviously, it's a system monitor, which has been acquired by, it's a Windows system service, obviously. It's system internals too. Okay, what it is exactly? I'll show you right here. The Sysmon system utility from Microsoft, which is capable of logging any system internal activity. Okay, what we can do with the Sysmon audit information? Well, track any system level activity that happens within the boundary of a machine. Every system level activity. So by leveraging the Sysmon audit log, we can greatly identify, track, and monitor if someone is exploiting or trying to exploit using a process, a malicious process, trying to inject something in the registry, making changes to the system parameters. So pretty much everything inside the system internals can be audited, can be tracked. So with the log from Sysmon, we can do wonders, right? Okay, so how ADAudit can leverage and how we can help us with. I go here. We have Sysmon Auditing Reports. Any file level operation? Okay, I don't have any logging done. Process tracking, who's initiating a process, which process is getting initiated or terminated or created. If someone is trying to inject or run a malicious process, Sysmon can track them really, and configuration changes too, and queries, DNS, network connection, someone trying to establish a connection, something, okay? Any process or any other application or any other utility inside the network is trying to initiate a connection. So what's the source IP, destination, and the port number, which port is being used really, and what it was exactly. So that's the benefit of leveraging the Sysmon audit log information, and ADAudit has a variety of pre-configured reports to report Sysmon audit information in a more meaningful way. Okay, so now what next here? Well, besides the features we've seen so far, I would also like to have a quick glimpse of the features that already exist, okay, inside ADAudit. I mean, been for a very long time period, but the most wanted, most wanted for each and every organization. Here we go. Okay, I want to touch base with the user work hours. Okay, well, user work hours, it depends on security log events. To be exact, local log on and log off events to be collected from individual machines, DC, servers, workstations, pretty much. Okay, so all right, what are we going to do about it? What's a real value? What's a benefit out of it? Well, the value is really, really great because we can track an employee's productivity time. That's a real value. We can calculate how active the user had worked in the workstation. Well, nowadays, most of us are working from home. Well, I'm not. Well, I'm in office. So a lot of people, many of us are working from home, right? Remote workers. And as an admin, we need to be able to monitor, audit, and we can do very well in user work hours reporting. So basically what it does is it collects the logs from workstations, individual machines. So you may ask me, okay, what if the machines are really out? Well, at home, and obviously they use laptops and they connect to the VPN, to the gateway, or even without VPN. ADAudit can re-log security log events from the workstation. So all we have to do is just enable auditing. And we also have a feature in ADAudit to configure network address translation. NAT. Well, if we have NAT enabled on the server where ADAudit Plus is installed, which obviously would allow the remote workstations to send logs even without VPN. And we can have agents deployed on the on the remote machines too, which would even do the job with less bandwidth consumption. So the point to collect logs from various endpoints or all the workstations. And now how ADAudit can make it in a more meaningful manner and give us more insight about the productivity time. That'll be under local logon, logout. User work hours. So just pick up the user. We can generate this report based on a specific user, or we can even go by group of users. Right? Should I go with administrators or any group? That's okay. For the selected period on every given day, first in time, last out time, total time spent by the user on the workstation, and especially eliminating the idle time. How long the user was really idle after logged into the workstation, then the total, and the active working hours. If I go and click here, if the user had disconnected, session reconnected, lock or unlock, every time that the user did it, we're going to have that very well captured. Or just log on and log off, which is fine, pretty much. Eliminating the idle time, eliminating the time between lock and unlock, lock and unlock. So we're going to have the accurate value driven for the active working hours of a user. And we get, our ADAudit can show the value, does the math, pretty much everything behind. And all we get is a fascinating view of the report, just with accurate information on employee working time. So there we have user work hours. And now, what next? This is the new feature, user session recording. Okay, after logged into the workstation, after logged into an endpoint, a server, a member server, a DC, or workstations, pretty much. Well, we have, this is a very new feature. Just added in the last service pack, very new, brand new, I would say. What it allows us to do is to have the output driven through a video recording of activities done by the user in the system. Well, DC, server, and workstations, pretty much. We can enable user session recording. So let's see how we can do it and what we can do it, right? Okay. If I go to my environment, I have enabled the user session recording for one of the domain controller. And in fact, to administer the settings, I can enable certain parameters. Based on these parameters, user's activity will be captured into frames. And those frames will be, shown as a video. So we have the parameters configured already, and I've enabled auditing. We can even get this to user session recording. I have server, and yep, successful, which is fine. And where it saves all the frames, let's go to the server. There we go. Go to this machine, go to the installation folder of ADAudit. And by the way, if we want the user session recording achieved for any machines, which is based on agents, obviously, we're gonna definitely need agents to be deployed on the system, whether server or a workstation. We're gonna need the agent to be deployed, and based on the agent is the one which is going to capture and make frames and then make it a video, really. And that'll be under, the frames are really stored under web apps, ADAP, SM frames. The server that I've enabled, I go here, okay. Just got a couple of, I open the GPMC, okay. I open DNS, okay. So any changes even, so we can make it. So all these frames will be made a video, really. I don't have the player, so obviously I can't show the recording of it, but the output would be magnificent and fantastic. So a new feature in ADAudit Plus, user session recording. Okay, now what next? Log on activity. Of course, this feature, tracking a log on activity, log on failure. Well, we all know that they have been in existence in ADAudit for a very long time, even more than a decade, right? So what's new in log on failure? And I just wanted to rephrase, and I want to show or reiterate. Many of us know what's the feature and what it does, but I really want to show for everyone who don't know about it, or the best we can leverage it. I'm going to show you a log on failure and lockout analyzer. Okay, we all know we have a report called log on failure. All right, looks fine because it shows us which machine the user failed to authenticate, at what time, the reason for it, bad username, bad password. So even the disabled or expired or already locked out account is trying to authenticate from somewhere. What's the detail? What is the source? So to go for a deep dive into it, there is an analyzer feature in it. If I click here, it's an interactive failure. No components in the list on this machine is responsible for this authentication failure. It's an interactive failure, by the way. Okay, what if we have any of these components involved, which has a stale credential stored that caused this failure? Yeah, that's something, right? And wouldn't it be great if the same feature available for tracking lockout? Yep, very well. That's why we have account lockout analyzer. So basically what happens, it's a real-time analysis, by the way. So if I click detail on any of these locked out or even or failure, it runs an analysis, okay, immediately and finds out or tries to find out if any area on that machine where credentials are being used stale. We're going to have the anomalies. An abandoned logon session. Yeah. But what about, yeah, I got locked out a few days ago. Abandoned logon session from a remote machine. Any processes involved? Okay, why is this account locked out? All right, that's an interactive. User might have typed in the wrong password multiple times and just got locked out. Oh, this is an admin account. Oh, that's a scheduled task running on behalf of the user with the stale password. Even if the lockout happened through a mobile device with active sync enabled, yeah, we're going to have that tracked immediately right here. So that's the real value of account lockout analyzer, along with the source IP too. I mean, not just the name of the machine, even if IPs. So, yep, we can get that credible information. So we have logon failure and account lockout analyzer. I just wanted to refresh here. Oh yeah, we'll talk about Azure AD. For any environment has the Azure Active Directory, we can have, or ADAudit has the ability to have the cloud directory configured right here, and we can track audit changes and activities happening in our Azure AD platform. And most important reports I want to touch base. If we go to reports, then we have reports for Azure AD. Here we go. I go to another tenant, log on activity. Location, that's a very important because the very existence of this Azure AD tenant and the very objective of the Azure AD services is to operate or to let the users operate across the world. Well, different location, different sites, different geographical locations. People will be working in the Azure tenant, logging in, making changes and doing activities. Which city, the geolocation, that's a very important, one of the important fields. And application. We're going to have a lot of applications residing in Azure and people are using it, interacting with the applications, and what application is being used, logging into the Azure AD, which identity exactly, from which location, and yep, log on activity by application. Overall summary, really, for the last 24 hours. So I'm sure everyone knows it, right? ADAudit, it stores information over the long run, in fact, permanently, or in a technical standpoint, so we can archive. So we can even go back anytime we want, as long as we maintain ADAudit. We're going to have even do forensic analysis for the activity that might have happened a long time ago. We will have a proof of it. And all right, what reports? Updated users, any license management for the users in, someone is granting applied with license, or what are they? And we can even get the values driven. That's the value of it. Old value, new value of what attribute's been changed inside the Azure for the identity. You make a change to the rules. I mean, okay, no one has changed with the role. I go for last 6 months. Should have some data here. So we need to keep an eye on any membership changes, anybody who's been granted with a global admin or something. Okay, I didn't do anything here. Should have something. Okay, and try to go with the group. Okay, some changes have been made to the groups in the Azure. All right, and licensing. Any license changes to the identities inside the Azure, and what are the details? So we have exclusive reports and alerting capabilities that we can drive for our Azure Active Directory tenant in ADAudit Plus. Okay, now, what is beyond Active Directory? And I just wanted to touch base really with the capability of ADAudit to audit our file system, file folders within our file system. It's just the configuration is going to be different. Go to File Audit. I have my servers configured. If we have a cluster, or if we have a NetApp, Hitachi, Huawei, EMC, Synology, just the configuration, the way we add, and audit configuration, data retrieval, data gathering, and data polling, everything will be taken care of by ADAudit Plus. So what's the benefit? We're going to have file system auditing driven. Any data is changed inside the server, inside the NAS device. Someone is creating file, deleting file, modifying it. So we can run report, get alert, and we even have some advanced searching capabilities. We want to just search only for a specific file name, which contains or which equals, right, data. Okay. Well, so advanced search, you can save it if you want to view it every now and then. This is one of the ways that we can tailor the software. Yep, it's custom capabilities. So file auditing beyond the scope of it. And now we come to the discussion of the user behavior analytics. So another crucial and significant feature, one of the best features inside ADAudit Plus, user behavior analytics. Well, what is the value of it? I mean, everyone probably can think of it is being detecting the activities of a user, watching the behavior of a user. Yep, it does it. Of course, it watches the behavior of a user. What is the result we're going to get out of it? What are we going to really do with it by observing the behavior of a user? Okay, I just want to make a statement before we go for a deep dive. Identities can be forged. Yeah, if I was an attacker, I can forge the identity of a user. I can impersonate myself as an admin after gaining access to the various attack vectors, right? So gain access. So after gaining access to an account inside the domain, inside the network, I can impersonate or try to escalate the privilege, impersonate. The point is, if I was an attacker, I can launch pretty much from outside. But to a certain point, I need to be inside, right? So insider attack. We can literally, the objective of the user behavior analytics is to differentiate between a normal user's behavior and a rogue user's behavior. And in order for this component to cope with the evolution, obviously, yeah, because identities can be forged, but the identity's behavior cannot be forged. Okay, if I was an attacker, or prior to that, if I was a normal user, I start my work at 9 o'clock and I leave office at 6 p.m. I'm done. And if I was an attacker, if I try to gain access to another user and I try to log in or try to launch an attack at maybe midnight, 12 a.m., or after sometime maybe 7 p.m. or 8 p.m., or even in the middle. So for example, I gain access to an administrator and I'm trying to launch an attack in Active Directory. I'll keep on making changes to the attributes or user objects and group objects lot. I have already impersonated myself as an admin, right? An insider. So I have a mask of an insider right now, but I'm just doing a lot of changes right now. Okay, but the point is that user may not have the practice or the routine or the behavior of making that many changes, especially maybe within a time. So that's how we can literally differentiate the anomalies. So the objective of the UBA, the user behavior analytics component, is to flag the anomalies. And now let's see how we can benefit out of the feature. Go to analytics. There are 4 different grounds the user's behavior would be analyzed. Of course, ADAudit uses the event log from the Active Directory environment to build a baseline. When we install ADAudit Plus for the first time, the 7 days what it takes to build a baseline. We won't see any data in any of these reports for the first 7 days since we installed, but the next day, from 8th day, it would have built a baseline for users. Okay, Bruce McLean, he usually logs in. He starts a day at 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock, and he finishes the day with, 6 p.m. or 5 p.m. And in the meantime, he usually make changes or handle a lot of Active Directory requests. So he tends to involve himself with the Active Directory management activities between 10 to 12 p.m. Okay. And what if there is an account, or there's, let's say, what if a lot of changes made to the Active Directory in my name, in Bruce McLean's name, especially that was supposed to happen at 12 or after 12 p.m. Okay, say 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. But that's an anomaly. Well, I didn't do it. I usually wouldn't do it, but it happened, right? So that's an anomaly. So something is going on, which we can differentiate it. And especially some of the reports. I mean, yeah, like I said, there are 4 different grounds the user's behavior will be analyzed, baselined, and anomaly flagging would happen. Log on. Users log on. And user Active Directory management activities, application level activity, process and file system activities. So on 4 different grounds, a user's behavior would be analyzed. Now, here's the tricky part. When, of course, we have ADAudit Plus, we have UBA enabled, and there's nothing to enable, obviously. It drives itself, really. It evolves itself. The baseline would change for users, right? Maybe user has a routine right now to log in at 9 o'clock and then leave at 5 p.m. And then his or her shift changes at work. So the baseline would obviously change, right? He or she starts logging in at 1 p.m. and then leaves at 9. Okay. See, the entire baseline is changing. The new baseline has become the routine of the user. So no, to tackle this evolution of the baseline and then start flagging the anomalies according to the new baseline, which is why the UBA, this user behavior analytics, is built based on machine learning, an AI component, an artificial intelligence component. So it takes care of itself. It takes care of the baseline evolution itself, and then start flagging anomalies according to the user's behavior, current behavior. Just keep an eye. Just a couple of reports I want to showcase, really. First time remote access. Anyone taking a remote desktop connection? I really didn't do this. And something happened. It's a very public. Okay, take a look at that. First time remote access on host. Unusual logon, volume of logon failure. We don't have it, which is fine. If there was a brute force attack, like password spray, brute force, but not password spray, brute force, there's going to be a normal number of logon failures, right? We can track it immediately. And user management, unusual volume of user management activity. Yep, no anomalies. It's a very small lab domain, so no unusual volume. Any new process installed? Yeah, this is important, very important. And a new process gets executed. File changes, abnormal file deletions or modifications. My God. Okay, well, I didn't do this obviously, but we've had this track at 2 to 3 a.m., which is definitely an anomaly because this user or myself, we wouldn't really have a practice or a baseline to delete multiple files and these many files. But I did this for simulation, so which is what happened. This is not my normal behavior. But to differentiate, we do have reports for usual behavior, just to point out, or just to view, okay, what is the normal behavior? And then just coming back here and watch it if there's really abnormal. We have reports, right? Okay. We can make an alert. In fact, all important report profile listed under the analytics, we made them as a pre-configured alert profile as well. An alert engine, exclusive alert engine, which is being driven for unusual activity tracking. First time process on server, first time remote access on server. All we have to do, just type in our email address. That's it. It would start receiving notification when the anomaly occurs. So here we go with the user behavior analytics. I think that's pretty much some of the features. Just wanted to ensure that ADAudit Plus is being administered properly in a very well manner. We have a couple of features I want to talk about. To harden the security, one of the ways to harden the security, configure two-factor authentication for the technicians, anybody who try to log into ADAudit, anybody who wants to log into ADAudit Plus. We have a few options. We support these authentication factors. We can have them enabled. We can even have a single sign-on achieved through NTLM, or even if we have a SAML provider, we can keep that as a server provider for a single sign-on. And another important administrative capability ADAudit can offer is configuring specific access to technicians and audit them too. When any technician logs into ADAudit, as an admin, we can make sure we have a very specific role configured for the technician. For example, I have a test role created, which has been assigned to Paul Walker. If Paul Walker logs into ADAudit, all he can view is just user management, and that to not every report inside user management, only the reports chosen. That's it. Nothing else he can view inside ADAudit. And anything or any user does it inside ADAudit, we have audit report. Even for admin, I just viewed the role, right? I mean, yeah, read access, any changes made to the configuration inside ADAudit. Technician audit report. And we can have the schedule too, exported schedule, pretty nice usability options we have. Well, and okay, we have, I'm sure we all know archiving is very important. One of the important features in ADAudit to archive, to let us retain data within the repository for some time, and the older data will be archived, compressed and archived. Compression ratio is 98%. We save a lot of space. And we're not going to lose any data. We have the ability to restore archive, or we can search any information, any events inside the archive without having them restored again into the repository. So technically there's no data loss. Well, I think that's pretty much about it. So I think we are pretty much at the verge of closing the sessions now. I hope, we still have a lot more we can discuss inside ADAudit Plus, and we will have a topic-based webinars. We have an idea, obviously we can conduct it. So if you have any questions, you can please email me or email the support us. We will be more than happy to help you with the technology and with the product, the application very well in a full swing